going to talk about today is the KLR and the way to set that thing up for touring. There's a lot of options and there's a lot of companies out that have gear for use. But today we're going to go over one of my favorite companies that I've ever worked with, and it's Happy Trail. And happytrail.com has everything that you really need for a KLR. They have all the accessories. They have suspension parts for the front and back and all of that. Today what we're going to go over is what I consider the very first thing that I do to a KLR whenever I purchase one. This happens to be the third KLR I've owned. The last two each got 50,000 miles on them before I got rid of them. Now, this KLR, the very first thing that you want to do with a KLR is to make the thing usable for what you want to do with the motorcycle. So you come over here, and the very first thing I always do with a KLR is I always go to a skid plate. If you notice, most skid plates will come up and they just cover this area here, and they have a thin piece of aluminum on the bottom. Now this skid plate that is designed by Happy Trails comes all the way up and completely covers the water pump. Gives you great protection on the water pump, and it comes up high up the front to protect that, and it's covered all the way to the back. One of the things that you probably can't see in this video is that they have their impact kit put in as well, which gives you a rubber isolation between your frame and the skid plate, and also does the same thing beneath the engine for the KLR. And what that does is it isolates noise that would be reflected back up, and it also adds some rigidity to the skid plate. Now this skid plate that I'm running is actually their TTH skid plate, which stands for Tougher Than Hell, and it is a double walled bottom skid plate to give you that extra protection in case you're a little on the nut side when you go to off-road in a KLR, taking it places that it probably really should not be. You need this skid plate because it'll go the extra mile. The very next item that I always put on is what Happy Trails calls their EG, or their engine guard. I like their engine guard, the way it's set up. I enjoy highway pegs through the years of riding sport bikes, playing football, and the different things that I've been through in life. My knees don't operate as well as they should, and they really get sore being locked in one position all the time. So I like the highway peg design that he's got mounted in this engine guard. Now, an accessory or an addition to the engine guard, especially on a Gen 2 KLR, that I think is beneficial to anybody that's running a Gen 2 KLR is this. It's called the PD Nerf system. And the PD Nerf system protects this plastic. Unlike your traditional dirt bikes, this plastic's hard and it'll crack and it'll break whenever you crash the motorcycle. It's more like sport bike plastic, so you really need to work on protecting this plastic, and this piece does that. It's got two crossbars. It's got this one here that runs behind the fairing and comes in to give it some rigidity, and then it's got an additional piece here on top of being mounted into the engine guard crossbar here. It adds a lot of strength. As you can see, it's strong, it doesn't move, it doesn't flex, it'll take a good impact. They've provided well for me. This is my second Gen 2 KLR. And moving up to the top here, this is a piece that I enjoy putting on KLRs, because if you're an adventure rider, you're out off the beaten trail, you're riding in faraway places, maybe even some unknown places, and you enjoy getting off-road kind of like we are in this setting. This panel, not only does it adjust the angle of the windshield here at a better angle, it makes it slightly taller as well, but it gives you this dash panel. And this dash panel is one of the strong suits of this kit. It's called the Rally Kit, by the way. I've got my phone mount here, which I actually got from Clockworks to mount my cell phone. And since I've just put these things here on the bike, I haven't mounted my GPS, but typically here would also be a GPS mount so that I can see where I was going. Off to the side here, I would also use a USB port so that I can power my phone or any other device that I might end up putting on the KLR. You can see we still have the stock handlebars. I've yet to change those out. I do enjoy running a different bend bar than what comes factory. But we got these hand guards here. Hand guards are really important. Just the other day, I don't have my gloves with me. I was riding out in this area, got caught in a briar patch that ripped open my gloves on top. If it wouldn't have been for this, it would have wrapped around and grabbed my front brake and probably threw me to the ground. But because of this, it was able to roll over on my hands and then slide off in that direction. And since Allison's on the other side of the bike, let's look at this. One of the things that happens whenever you're riding an off-road bike, most people go to a wider peg such as these that you can put on the bike. But what happens is you get a wider peg, you end up running an off-road boot that is a bulkier boot than what your typical riding boot for a street machine would be like. And you need a shifter that gives you a little more toe room here so that you can shift the bike easily. Happy Trail makes this product here that has the fold off piece, so if you crash your bike, you're not going to bend it, it's just going to fold out of the way here. But the thing that's nice about this shifter is that it gives you a little more room in your toe area, and if you find that you don't need that, they also make the standard length version here for those people with smaller feet. One of the things that I failed to mention on the skid plate that is a very needed design, in my opinion, on a skid plate, so you don't have to reduce it for maintenance. If you'll come around over in this area, you can see this slot here. It's a thing most people that ride KLRs have come to know as the doohickey. And this hole here is shaped the same shape as your doohickey, but it allows you to get in here and to make that adjustment, which I make at every 3,000 miles. And it makes it easy. You don't have to remove anything to make that adjustment. And then obviously on this side you can see the PD Nerf set up for this side. Moving on towards the back, you've got the Happy Trail boxes. Now these boxes, you can see this one's dented up. It's got a big dent here. It had a rough life on another motorcycle that I had, and I run it into a tree a couple of times and rocks, and it's been laid down on top of the World Highway on my way to Dead Horse, Alaska from Inuvik. It's been through some things, but it's still sturdy, still waterproof bag. Come on around this side, we'll take this pannier here off. Love Happy Trail's panniers because they've never failed me. They've always been waterproof. They are a easy release system, which it has these pucks in here that you just unscrew, and they're basically just knobs with bolts on them, and you can take those loose to easily remove this bag, which works good if you're carrying a large bag like what I've got here. It's called the Cascade bag. Then you can take these off and leave them at camp or in the motel room or wherever if you're going to go out and explore the area or trails, and it's just that easy to remove the box. So you remove the box, lay it to the side, leave it at camp, leave it in the motel, and what you're left here is with what Happy Trail calls their SU rack. And what they have here is nut zerks, so it's easy to thread those back in, and then it's basically a D-style shaped loop, but it is connected rigid here at 1, 2, 3 places, and then has what they call their bumper to keep the two pieces side to side, adds a little more strength there. Not only are they good for holding your luggage system set up like what I've got there, but also protects this side panel on the KLR as well. And since we're down here on this side, this is always a neat thing to add to a KLR. I've put them on all of mine. This is Happy Trail products. Rear master cylinder guard. If you knock it over or something, this gives you a little extra protection so you don't hit squarely on that master cylinder and lose your rear brake or lose the brake fluid out of that. And since we're down here, I want to show you this. This is Happy Trail set up center stand. You'll notice here that it is adjustable, has a lot of holes drilled in it here so that you can adjust it. We've got it set up the way it's sent from Happy Trail, which if you're running standard street tires on a stock height KLR, this is a good setting. It gives you enough room to get your bike up. It allows you to do what I just did, which is take off the saddlebags or the top box. Makes it easy to lay things on top in case you find yourself on the side of the road needing to repair a tire or something. You can lay all your tools flat on top of the top box or on top of the saddlebags, and you don't have to worry about anything because you have the center stand, which also allows you to take off your front or rear wheel in case you need to do some work on that. This thing here mounts right up to where the foot pegs mount. It has its own stop in here. Very strong springs. It doesn't rattle or shake or anything like that going down the road. It's a real neat setup. Now, I want to move on here towards this top box. I have opted to use what they call their Elite Tail Rack system, which also you could order as an accessory, this quick release mount for your top box, which I like. Once again, running a top box this size, if I'm off-road, especially if I'm getting off-road where it can get serious, then I want to be able to take off some weight. I don't want anything heavy up high like this. So you can just take and loosen these things up here and pop this top box right off. Like so. Take it into your room and you're good to go. Now with that top box off, what we have left here is the KLR-E, which is for the 2008 models. And this piece, come around on this other side, this piece completely replaces the luggage rack that comes factory on the KLR. You can see here it's got new side plates that bolt in, which are integral to this piece. The SU racks can bolt to the stock luggage rack, or it can bolt to this Elite system. This Elite system, as you can see, you've got slots and you've got holes drilled in, and then these nut certs so that you can mount different items there, here, and then if you come around to the back, you've got slots so you can put your bungee cords or whatever straps. And if you've got gear and you prefer just to run a top rack and not run a top box like I do, then you're able to set those on top here and run with that. It is a really neat, integral piece of the bike that I, for one, enjoy riding with. So putting this piece back on is pretty simple. You just slide it back up, and it depends on how tight you have everything mounted, because these side plates here for the quick release, they are absolutely adjustable. So, but for me, when I'm running this box, it's not too tall to get in the way. Still has a big flat. It's like having another luggage rack, but inside you have the ability to have whatever equipment that you want to put in here to keep dry. Like this is being filmed on an iPad. I keep my iPad and stuff in the top box as well, and then I've carpet lined that. But it has footman loops here so that you can strap whatever you want to up here on the top box. That's pretty much it for the gear that we've put on this bike. I believe it really takes the KLR to the next level. Now this KLR is a 2014.5 model, which has the stiffer suspension that KLR came out with. They called it the new edition, but really what you got is just a little better suspension on it, a little firmer with the springs, a little more damping. But the thing about the KLR that's so unique and so interesting is it's such a popular bike. You really can turn this bike into anything that you need for it to be. And Happy Trails is a place that you can go do those things with. Now, we'll be having an article come out in the Heartbeat that will highlight some of these things. We wanted to just do a little more detail into what we have here on the KLR in a video. Hope that you like that. Tap subscribe and let us know what you think.